Well, howdy there. Welcome to Cade's Kaleidoscope podcast. This is your resource for holistic health, sobriety, and travel. My name is Preston Wade. I'm here talking with Liz.
Hello.
And the first question I have for Liz, Liz is a scientist. She works in science. I wanted to ask her, what do you say to the vaccine skeptics? I've heard many people say, why do you care if my child gets vaccinated? If your child is vaccinated against polio, that means even if somebody around you has polio, your child's safe. So why do you care that I vaccinate my child with a vaccine that I don't trust?
So if that were exactly how it worked, I don't think any vaccinated people would care. However, unfortunately, viruses mutate, and also antibodies, which are created in response to vaccines, can wear off over time, which means that vaccinated people are susceptible to infection from the very infections that they are vaccinated against. So basically, by not vaccinating, you're putting many people around you at risk. In many outbreaks recently caused by pockets of unvaccinated people, some of the people that have been infected are vaccinated folks. When almost an entire population is vaccinated, we reach something called herd immunity, which means that enough people are vaccinated that the virus has an incredibly difficult time surviving and making its way through the population. When you have unvaccinated individuals, the virus is able to kind of incubate inside of them and mutate, and then sometimes it can mutate to the point where the antibodies in vaccinated people can no longer recognize it. So that's why it's so important for as many people to be vaccinated as possible, to basically give the viruses nowhere to live and nowhere to change and grow.
Terrific. Thank you for that. And I wanted to ask, do you remember, now, years ago I learned this in school, but I don't remember the exact year or even the era that the first vaccinations were created and developed. Do you remember?
Oh gosh, I don't. I feel like it's got to be around 100 years ago. I think it was smallpox, was it? Because they found out that cowpox, if you were kind of inoculated, women that would milk cows couldn't get smallpox, I think was what it was. And they found out that all of these women that were milking the cows, they got cowpox, which was a much more mild than smallpox, and they were then immune to ever getting smallpox because the antibodies were so similar for the two diseases. So then from that, some brilliant scientists, and I did just read about this and I've already completely forgotten about it, but it's you can look it up, and they found out that if they inoculated people, yes, okay.
So, thank you.
Oh, so it was so much earlier than I thought.
Yeah, my father, do you want to say hi to the podcast audience? Yeah, he's sitting behind us on a bus right now. Yeah, my father is sitting behind us on a bus right now, and he just Googled this for us.
I got the virus right.
So, Edward Jenner, now this is coming from immune.org.New Zealand, so I'll fact check this afterwards, but we've got Edward Jenner. Well, I'll fact check this before I put it on the podcast. So I just did a tiny effort at fact checking, and we're gonna continue with the interview because we don't have a lot of time left. I'm just gonna put this out there for the record that immune.org.nz looks like a credible source, but I cannot confirm that this is coming from the CDC, basically. So we've got, do you want to read this?
Oh, no, go for
Okay,
it.
so this is, Edward Jenner is considered the founder of vaccinology in the West. In 1796, after he inoculated a 13-year-old boy with Vaccinate virus, cowpox, and demonstrated immunity to smallpox. In 1798, the first smallpox vaccine was developed. So this happened, the first vaccine that we are aware of was in 1796. So that's about, 200 years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Oh,
Yeah.
gosh. I mean,
right.
Wow.
Great. So I wanted to ask you, Liz, to please carry on. You were explaining that the name vaccine comes from cow.
Yeah, so vaca, and because the first vaccine used the cowpox virus to help people become immune to the smallpox virus, so that's where the word actually comes from. And they were just they're fantastic.
Yeah.
Can't say enough about vaccines.
Yeah, that's great. And I'll take a moment here to share that I personally have been susceptible to conspiracy theories in the past. In 2017, I lost my mind. I lost all connection to this reality when I was in Mexico, and I was convinced that Donald Trump was on a conference call with me, and I was convinced that Donald Trump was actually the candidate I wanted for president. And not only that, but I've been a person who has really, most of my friends are hippies. I'm a liberal, open-minded Christian hippie myself. But that's all to say, I to some extent I can relate to the vaccine skepticism. I've got a lot of dear friends who will never vaccinate themselves or their kids, and it's something that I've wrestled with. I waited until August 2021 to get the COVID vaccine, but I really waited because I was in Argentina before and I didn't want to get the vaccine coming from China or Russia. So that's all to say. Thank you, Liz, for sharing. Would you like to share something else on the subject of vaccinology, of Western medicine in general? I mean, because it's not perfect.
Oh, it's absolutely not perfect. And I can understand people having deep mistrust of anything the government says because, they haven't really ever tried to make the people feel like they care about them. And the population, they know that we exist merely so that they can be in power of something. And they would love it if there were less of us, I'm sure. So, but vaccines are one of the few really, really, really good things that the government does talk about. They are created by scientists like myself. There are people in my building that were working on parts of studying COVID and the vaccine. So it's scientists that have all of the best things in their hearts when they're doing it. So don't think of it's not like the White House is like, oh, what do we put in this vaccine? A tracker. No, we already have cell phones. They can already track us.
Now, that's an important detail I wanted to mention. Don't worry, they're not putting a chip in you. You're already carrying it of free will because you love your phone. I stare at my phone for hours a day, and there's no chip going into your body because you're already carrying it and you're choosing to. So relax. Thanks, Liz.
Thank you.
So thank you very much for listening. If you'd like to support us, the links to do that will be included in the notes of this podcast. You can Venmo me. You can send money through PayPal, through Cash App. Also, if you'd like to pre-order my first book, you are welcome to do that. The information to pre-order that first book is also included in the show notes of this page. And please do take a moment, if you can, to like, comment, and subscribe. Help make this podcast successful. And please leave a review. You can leave a review wherever you hear this podcast.